I just want to give you a little refresher on Maya and how to navigate around and to interact with things. A few things you'll need to know for this assignment. You have to do a few more things than you've done before in Maya, but most of these things will stay the same. So when you open Maya, you should see something like this where you have your perspective view, and this is the one where you can tumble around. Remember, holding down Option on your keyboard and left mouse clicking and dragging will tumble your view. Right mouse dragging with Option held down will zoom in and out, and middle mouse will track around back and forth, up and down. Always with the Option button held, Option key held down to do that. You have to set up your mouse preferences each time you come into the classroom to be able to do that, right? So I expect to see you doing that in class. So if we want to create something in Maya, so I can just go to Create Polygon Primitives and create a cube, for example. So I can zoom in, get close to it, move around, tumble around, and see it. Another way I can get in close is just to hit, with it selected, and I can just click and drag to hit select. To select it, I can hit F and it will focus or frame that one object. If there's more than one object in your scene, like this, if I hit F, it will go to that one object that's selected. If I hit A, it will frame both objects. So that's quite useful when you're working with these data sets, because sometimes you'll find that when you bring data sets in from somewhere, they're way off in the distance, and the easiest way to get there is just to select it, hit F. Then when you want to get it back to where you need to go, you can locate your grid that's in the middle of the world here. If you don't see that grid in any view, you can click on and off here. So let's say I want to get this cube back to where it started. One way we can do it is to select the object, and we can move it by hitting W, and you can see I've got my move manipulators here. So W is the shortcut. It's over here in the toolbar, the transform tool, or pardon me, the translate tool. So then if I grab one of these arrows, it will just pull it in that one direction. If I just grab it in the middle, I can freely move it around. If I grab another one of these, I can go in that direction, and then these squares in between just locks it into two axes. If I need to rotate it, I can hit E on the keyboard, and then I can freely rotate it, or I can grab one of these lines to rotate it, but keep it locked in that axis. This light blue one locks it in the axis that you're viewing it from. So it's pivoting around my point of view now. If I hit R and grab the middle one, I can scale it up. If I grab one of these side ones, I can scale it disproportionately. If I want to move this right to the middle of the world, so that's in the middle of this grid, these thicker lines here, the easiest way to do it is if I go up here, this is called my status line, all the way over here, you might see something like this where it says X, Y, Z. If you don't see that, you'll probably see a little icon here. If you click on that, you might be on select by name, probably looks something like this. So instead you can go to absolute transform and just type in 0 tab, 0 tab. Tab just goes from one window to the next. 0 and hit enter. Oops. There, I made a mistake. I forgot I was still in scale mode, so it scaled everything to 0. I want to be in move mode when I do that, so W. So 0 tab 0 tab 0, and then it just pops it back to the middle of the world. So that's, you have to be sure you're on absolute transform rather than relative, because relative will just move it that amount from its current position. So 0, 0, 0 would move it nothing. Absolute moves it to the absolute 0 position in the world of Maya anyway. And remember, if you tap your space bar, you can go from view to view. You've got top, front, side. And if you want to see something with texture on it, you can hit 6 on the keyboard. If you want to see it with lights on it, you can hit 7 on the keyboard. I don't have any lights here, but I can create some. I can go to create lights. I can just create a simple point light. Same thing, and move it out so we can see our object lit up. because I'm in 7 mode. If you don't see that, it's probably because you're in 6 or 5 mode. If you're in 4 mode, I mean pressing 4 on the keyboard, you see everything in wireframe. Okay. Another window that's very useful to use while you're working in Maya is called the outliner. If you want to open a new window, you can go to Windows and choose among here from all these editors, but the one we want is right here called the outliner. It just lists everything in your scene. So I've got a P cube, that's this thing. I've got a point light, that's that thing. And some other stuff, those cameras that we look through. You may be changing the materials on some of your objects. So if you select something and then right click on it, you can go down here and go to assign new material. And let's say there's a lot of things to choose from here, but there's one called blend. I can assign a blend to it. And over here, when I do that, it opens up what's called the attribute editor, and it shows a lot of different qualities of the object you have selected. And so there are different tabs, and there's the blend tab that I just created, so you can see I can choose its color. It changes to a different color. If I go back to the channel box by clicking the tab here, it just shows me qualities of its position in space. The attribute editor shows me more things about it. If you want to access the material, you can right click and go to material attributes, and it will open up this window in the attribute editor. We're going to be doing some rendering in Maya. So just as a reminder, these are the render icons up here at the top towards the right. This one actually opens up the render view. The one beside it without the eye actually opens it up and does a render. The view you have active. And then not the IPR one, but the one with the little gear on it opens up the render settings. And we're going to be changing some things in here as we go. We might change the render using to mental ray. This is called its render engine, the thing it uses to calculate a 2D image from all the 3D objects in the space here. Mental ray is just a higher quality one. And there are different tabs here that I'll refer to: quality, the scene, things like that. So we'll pop back to this later on, but just so you know, these are the render settings. In the common settings down here, we can change the size of the image that's rendered. So by default it's, I don't know what it is by default actually, but we might be rendering something more like letter size. So then if we click render, it's rendering a bigger image, so it takes longer to render, even something as simple as this cube. What you'll notice is that that render that I just did is shaped like a piece of paper, like an 8.5 by 11, but the window that we rendered it from is not that shape. You're not going to be doing any renders from the perspective window, but you will be doing renders from the front and side view, probably. So if you want to see a representation of how it's actually going to render, you have to go into the panel menu here, the one that says View, and go to Camera Settings and turn on Resolution Gate. And it shows us the actual resolution it's going to render, and it blocks out the areas that it won't. Now we can't see the top or bottom of this. I'm just going to maximize this. You can't see the top or bottom. So again, if we go to the View menu and go to Camera Settings, we can go down to the bottom where it says Vertical, and it just fits it in vertically within this window. So this is how big we know it's going to be when we render. And remember, you have to do this for each view, and if you want to see it lit in each window, you've got to turn it on to 7 in each window. It doesn't carry over from the panel view to panel view. And I think that is all I can think of for another Maya primer. Those are most of the tools you're going to be using in this assignment. If others come up, I'll explain them in the videos and demonstrate them in class. Thanks.